Allison Rosen. Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison Rosen, Allison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of Allison Rosen is Your New Best Friend. I am sitting here on a very rainy day in Los Angeles in my studio with Elizabeth Laime. Hello.
Hello. It's so nice to see you. It's been so long.
I know. I was trying to figure out how long. Well, first, let me tell everyone how they know you.
Okay, great.
Okay, because you are a television writer, you're a comic, you are a podcast, an unparalleled podcast host who has been doing this as long as I have, I think, if not maybe even longer. But right now, they would know you from a very fun podcast that you do with your husband called Nobody's Listening, Right? And I think we have crossover fans.
Oh,
I know that we do.
I'm sure we do.
Yes.
And even like OG fans from 13 years ago.
Right.
Probably. Yeah.
Because before you did this podcast, you had, so your last name is Laime, and you had Totally Lame, and then Totally Married, and then Totally Mommy.
Yes.
So this is all part of your podcast empire. But you also have recently started hosting a show called The One Sure Thing, which is a podcast about death and dying.
Correct.
So we're going to get into that. And then also you are a writer for the ABC. It's ABC, right?
Yes.
Show A Million Little Things.
Yes.
Not A Million Little Pieces.
Different.
We discussed earlier. I was saying my mouth wants to say pieces. And you said a lot of people do that. But no, this is A Million Little Things.
Yes.
Which is exciting because I think when you and I first met, you were wanting to get staffed on a show.
Oh,
you were kind of like in the course of trying to get your, like, move your career in that direction. And look, you've done it now.
I think if you speak into a microphone enough times saying, God, I want this thing, it eventually comes true because it took a very long time and I never stopped complaining about wanting it. And then I finally, probably 7 years ago, finally started writing for TV.
How did it happen?
It happened in a very funny way. Unexpected, I should say. I should say this. I started out doing comedy in New York when I was like 22. And then we moved to LA when I was 28. We started podcasting. That was 2013. Everyone could do the math. I'm only 36. Just kidding. And
I'm 38, just a little bit old. Oh my God, how sad that I'm like, I'll tell them I'm 38. Because that's actually like not that young sounding. But it is compared to my real age of 145.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
So basically we started podcasting and I was setting out to become a TV writer and wrote a million scripts, went on a million meetings, nothing ever happened. Then I got pregnant and I was 34 and I had my daughter and basically another mom, June Raphael.
Yeah.
And I became close because, and actually I had originally met her on my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, similar to you, I think we have very similar kind of worlds where podcasting brings all these great people into your life. And she and I were walking our babies around the reservoir, like looking dead-eyed and exhausted. And I pitched her the thing I was going to write next. Not pitching, I was just telling her about it. But unbeknownst to me, she and Casey Wilson had a deal at ABC. And like the next thing I knew, she was like, will you come tell this to Casey? And I was like, oh my gosh. And then we took it to ABC and they bought it. So that was the first time I sold something. And then I sold something the next year with Tammy Sager. And then I got staffed on I'm Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like such a journey. It was such a journey. So very grateful. I never take it for granted because it took me so long and I had to claw my way in. So even I was just on set a few weeks ago and I'm always like, I cannot believe like I duped them. I can't believe it.
Do you have imposter syndrome?
Yeah. Oh yeah. For everything. Correct. Yeah.
Huh.
Do you?
Yes. I would say that it waxes and wanes. Like I don't really have imposter syndrome regarding my podcast.
Yes.
Because it's in my backyard and it's all very comfortable. With the let me put a carrot on that or a pin, because there's one thing where I remember there are some moments where I do, but for the most part I don't. But when I'm in like official Hollywood land situations, which I feel like it's been a little while, then I definitely do have imposter syndrome. But I don't know if it's the pandemic or my age, again, 145, or what it is, but like I would like to think that maybe I'm getting to a place where I feel like I can see it all for what it is a little more, and I get that like everyone is just trying to figure things out.
Yeah, you know what? As you say this, is funny because I was like, I don't have imposter syndrome for podcasting. And I think maybe that's because you and I were like,
we invented
the two
it.
First women who ever did. I mean, honestly.
We were some of the first, if not the first.
We started, our first podcast dropped in February of 2010.
Okay. Yes. And that's around the time and so you are before me, because I was doing Allison Rosen's You Know Best Friend as a streaming internet show in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow.
And then I moved back to California in October of 2010, started on the Adam Carolla show January of 2011, and then brought Allison Rosen's You Know Best Friend back as a podcast in 2012. So you paved the way for me.
Well, I know. And then when it comes to writing stuff, I feel like similarly, you know, the more time you spend in it, and being on set and kind of reaching a certain level. And you also learn as you rise the ranks in like a TV writer's room and being on set, it's kind of shocking how much you're still learning as you go. Like, I think in my mind, I thought all these co-EPs and EPs have it all figured out. And the truth is every show is different. Everyone's learning new things as they go. And so giving yourself that kind of grace, I think, alleviates a lot of the imposter syndrome. But
Right.
I still definitely, like, when I have, maybe it's less imposter syndrome, but like the director's chair that has my name on it, like,
so
oh my
cool.
God, I will never, I hope, get cynical enough to like not be totally over the moon about it and not show it at all. And I just go and sit down. But inside I'm like, oh my God.
That's so cool. The pin carrot that I put in I don't have it regarding my show. During the pandemic, when I was doing everything on Zoom, I began at times to feel like I'm just a stranger asking nosy questions of famous people. And I think it's because without that connection in the room, I did worry like, it was Tim Heidecker. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He's so funny and he was so like nice and such a good interview. But I was excited to book him on the show, and I think I really got in my head about it. And so I was like, I want to like really be really versed in the Tim Heidecker world. So I like was watching tons of his stuff and just immersing myself so much that when I was talking to him, I really, just to be honest, like I wasn't fully conscious of it, but I think what happened was I wanted to impress him.
Yes.
Which is the kiss of death. I find as a host so I like wanted to impress him with the depth of my questions and with how much I knew about him. And like, I don't know.
That may be why I like totally died, because I almost every single time wanted, well, maybe not to impress, but I wanted to be liked by the person, which, I mean, I don't know. I think is a double-edged sword, of course, but you're such a good interviewer. It's natural to you.
Thank you. I mean, but I think wanting to be liked is a little bit different than wanting them to be impressed by you. Because wanting to be liked could mean like you're just going to have a fun conversation where you're sort of becoming friends versus I feel like I was coming from this place of like, I want him to be like, whoa, these questions are incisive and astute.
You wanted it. That's a great question.
Yes. Although I kind of feel like if someone goes, that's a good question, they're like actually just buying time. That's I use it to, I mean, I can be acknowledging the question as a good one, but also sometimes I'm just like, oh, what is my answer? But anyway, all that said, so afterwards I had this very like off balance feeling of like, he has accomplished so much. By the way, I've had tons of big names on my show. It's weird that my husband is a big fan of Tim Heidecker and a big fan of Office Hours Live. And I'm kind of wondering if that's why I built it up in my head so much.
Probably.
So afterwards, I'm just like, he's like every time he coughs, like he has a new series. Like he's put out all these music albums. Like he's so prolific that I'm like, and I'm just like a no one asking him nosy questions. And I really had an identity crisis after that. But for the most part, I don't.
And so how do you deal with that? Because I feel like that's like social anxiety.
Yes.
And I don't interview people anymore on a podcast partially for that reason.
Really?
Because it would be like, I would go similar to like a night out drinking at a party. If I have one sip more than 2 drinks, I will be up all night going, did I say, I like your dress? Or did I say, like playing just this nonsense that I'm like, I have offended her for,
Yes.
And so my question to you is, how did you kind of combat that, or was it just a good night's sleep and time?
So a rule that I have set with myself that I break all the time, but I still think there's sense in the rule is regarding my own show, I will not form an opinion and run with it about how an episode was until I listen back to it.
Oh.
But like I said, I break it all the time because that whole downward spiral that I went on after the Tim Heidecker episode was based on my feeling from the Zoom. The truth is I went back and listened and I was like, oh, this is like a fine episode. All the things I was worried about aren't in there. And that is what ameliorated it. In addition to around that time, I was really working on my relationship with external validation and really trying to like get a handle on what is going on, because I would be sitting there in the morning as I look at social media first thing in the morning. It's terrible. I'm very not disciplined, but I would be sitting there and I'd like look at Instagram and then all of a sudden I would feel terrible. And I realized like, and it would be because admitting such unattractive things, but like it'd be because I saw some great guest was on someone else's podcast, which very rapidly in my head, I'm like, well, they why aren't they coming on mine? I guess I would never have that. I'm never going to, I'm not good enough so quickly. And then I was like, if I'm going to be upset every time something good happens for someone else, this is going to be a miserable life. Where's this coming from? And I kind of put it together that like, this isn't even about that podcast or that guest. This is about my mom and my sister. And this is like, it's just my shit getting projected onto that.
Yes.
So that was kind of waking up.
That's so astute. And also, I feel like it's just so human to always compare ourselves to other people. Andy and I have been having this experience lately and like coming back to podcasting after we were away for a while. And it's now just the two of us, and it's like very low maintenance and really fun. And we just really miss doing it. And so that's why we're back. But looking back on like our careers and the podcasting stuff, and there were so many times that I was probably like, beating myself up about this other podcast is blah, 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 But I really feel like everything has led us to what we're doing now, which, I just really love doing. And I'm also like, if the podcast had like blown up or something back in the day, I probably wouldn't have continued to do writing. He wouldn't have been doing music, and who knows? So I'm just trying to move through life that way. Also, like keeping my eyes on my own paper. But it is so human to look at what's going on with other people.
Right. That's so good though. It sounds like you're like in a really good or often in a really good headspace.
I have to say I am. I think obviously pandemic's not over. We have to say all the caveats, but coming out of my son has some health issues, and so we like did not leave our property for a year and a half. Like everything was delivered. We were the annoying people who, took it way deeper than most.
I think we did too.
Just out of like, fear.
Yeah.
The old terror. So now that we're coming back to life, I mean, it's kind of that thing like you can't have happiness without sadness.
Yes.
I really feel, I'm going to knock on wood, like we're in such a good place. We're doing things for like the love of doing them. I mean, that's not to say, of course, we all have our moments and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I'm also should say we just got back from Ojai for like 3 days for our anniversary. So I'm kind of like in a more blissed out state than I normally would be. But yes, to answer your question, things are good.
Good.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
What number was it?
15.
Wow.
I know.
That's so exciting.
I know.
My husband and I just had an anniversary as well.
What?
It's 9, which is not exciting.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. But we did nothing. We did not even get each other. We said happy anniversary, but like we didn't get cards or anything. His mom is coming next week. So we're for sure going to go out.
Oh, good.
But I think he was a little bummed that, I mean, he's like, I'm glad that both of us didn't, as opposed to one person doing something and then the other one feeling bad.
That's the worst.
He's like, but at the same time, I do think we should like recognize it. And I'm like, I know. So when your mom comes to town, but I don't know. Do you guys normally do something for your anniversary?
Honestly, we're very low key about it. And so we'll try to go away for a weekend. We don't typically do anniversary gifts or anything. So kind of similar, like a nice dinner out or something. But
did you go away with or without your kids?
Without.
We have only for one night when Owen was 4 months old, we went to San Francisco for a wedding. And that's when I was like, oh, I wasn't ready to do this yet.
Yes,
and then in the hospital having Owen, I was away from Elliot. We were away from Elliot. But other than that, we've never traveled without them. And we rarely travel.
It's a muscle you got to flex. But also my kids are now 7 and almost 9. Yeah. Very different. Like they can call us on their iPad, right. Like it's a whole different ballgame. But I will say, because like the first few times you do it, it's like the old saying, like your heart's outside your body.
Yeah.
You kind of don't even detach. And well, let me tell you that this trip, with the help of some weed gummies and a few old fashions, like I fully
had a good time. I knew they were in great hands. Like we FaceTimed them a couple times, but not too many. And it just really felt like, oh, this is a healthy thing we can do every once in a while and get away with it. And it's all good. And this was the first time we left for 3 nights, which is really necessary. Because 2 nights, you really only have 1 day. No, because you're arriving and then you're leaving.
Exactly. You got to get that 3 nights. Then you have 2 full days.
You need the meat in the sandwich of vacation.
Yes. You need the
or
meat.
The portobello burger.
Yes. So
yeah, that sounds nice.
It was nice.
There's so many things I want to talk to you about. I'm just going to jump right in with this.
Please.
Okay. The last time you were on my show... But not the last time I saw you was, I think, one of the last totally lame episodes.
Yes, you came on.
Okay, yes.
One of our like finale episodes.
Yeah.
That was great.
But, and then you were on my show when I was in the old apartment, and I cannot remember when that was, but you know what? Okay, so Elliot is 6 now, and you held him when he was a baby. So it was like 6. It's crazy. It was 6 years ago.
Crazy.
And you and I had bonded over the fact that after getting pregnant, we no longer did any pubic grooming.
Oh my God, it's so funny you bring this up, Allison, because in thinking of the segments for this show, one of the things that was on the table for the Go Fuck Yourself is our like mixed messaging about body hair.
Yes.
It's such a thing. So something new has happened in my life, and I'm dying to hear your update if there is one.
Well, yeah, no, don't get too excited.
Say what you were going to say. Because...
Well, I was going to say, yes. So for anyone who doesn't know, I had tended the area, over-tended, really.
Yes.
For years and years and years and years and years and years and years.
Can I ask, like,
Shaving.
I've
never waxed.
Okay.
I'm too pain averse. Were you waxing?
No, but that's because I had a horrible experience. Like I went to get waxed and the woman grabbed my leg. I was like in my 20s and wobbled my thigh.
Oh my God.
And said, you need to lose weight.
Oh my God.
When I'm sitting there like pussy out.
Yeah.
Like as vulnerable as a human can be.
You need to lose. Oh my God.
She said that to me.
That's so insane and rude.
So that turned me off from waxing forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it did it.
Did you actually get waxed that time?
Oh yeah, I went through.
I mean, I would have too, because I just would have been
course.
like, I'm in my own. I'm just gonna crawl up my own butthole in terms of where my soul is going. And like, was it painful?
It's like one of those IKEA bags that stuffs inside of itself.
Yes. Right.
Yes, it was very painful.
Okay.
Also, it was
emotionally painful, devastating on all levels. Yeah. So I feel like there's like something on my lipstick, so I just have to look in the window. What? In the camera? Okay. Seems okay. All right. Tony, leave that in. It's very real. It's very relatable. My confusion over the words mirror, window, camera. Anyway, so when I got pregnant, I think that my hair started growing faster or something, but I would be like, I felt uncomfortable, itchy, and stubbly. Like it felt like 10 minutes after I showered. Plus my growing belly, I couldn't really see the area as well. And then I was like, wait a minute. If I just let this grow back in, then I don't have to deal with the difficulty of shaving and with feeling itchy and uncomfortable. And it's going to be itchy and uncomfortable when it grows in, but then it'll be fine. And so then I let it grow in and I've never looked back.
Yay.
And now we are 6 years later.
Yeah.
Like when I get the rare occasion when I get in a bathing suit, then I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going to need to take care of some stuff. But I felt like I was the only one. And then you said that you had a similar trajectory. Where are you, if I may ask, where are you now with all of that?
Yeah, we had like a gray garden situation happening down there.
Feel like I there's a bat flew out earlier. Yeah, there's stacks of newspapers. It's bad.
But, no complaints. Like there's only one visitor, so whatever. But what I will say is, so I just wrapped on the show after 3 years, and it seems to be like a theme in my life where...
Wait, just does that mean that you're done as a writer on A Million Little
Things?
Yes. Okay. Oh, is that a congrats?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yes. So it's our final season. It's been announced, it's all good and an amazing experience, but I've been spat out into like unemployment and
so you feel like you need to have you be groomed down there?
First stop is like a laser clinic.
Okay.
I can't even say why, but it is I'm a woman of patterns, and this has been my pattern. When I'm facing like a void of nothingness in front of me, the first anchor for me is a laser clinic. And so I went.
Wait, so you've done this before?
I did, but for like my upper lip, which is hilarious because I have nothing there. I spent like $600 on nothing.
Making sure there was okay. I'm so glad you're mentioning this because I am feeling in a laser way these days. Because I had a laser treatment on my face that I had been considering for 10 years.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm like at one with lasers and I mean, all the, like all of a sudden I see how women just go way too far too fast and begin to look very artificial because I've never done any of that, but like I'm open to all of it. We'll get to that. Tell me more.
Okay. So I love that you're in a laser way. So back a million years ago, post the horrific waxing experience, I did go to an electrolysis person, which like is so barbaric and archaic now. It's like one needle going in and it's like,
and they zap the follicle,
like a lightning bolt comes from the sky. It's horrible. Things have come so far, and it's I'm so blessed to be alive right now
in this timeline.
Of laser and hair removal technology. Now, I say this as a double-edged sword. I very much envy the youngsters out there who like don't have the ingrained bullshit about body hair that we do. I wish I could like go pits out and bush out and feel, I mean, bush out I did for a while, but I finally, and so I'm also Eastern, like French and Czech. My leg hair, when I shave it, it's already like, coming out to the show as soon as I step out of the shower.
Yes.
So I went to this laser hair clinic in Glendale.
I like to hear this.
ProLays. This is a big plug for ProLays.
ProLays. Okay.
I went in. They did my legs, my bikini area. Now, I'm not taking it all off. I'm just
Do you tell them?
cleaning up.
Do you like show them a triangle that feels good? Or
Yes.
Okay.
I pointed out exactly where I wanted things and I, displayed.
Yeah.
And it's very fast, painless.
What? How?
And my armpits. Okay. So then she's like, basically, so you shave the day before, you go and they do this. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, it's not going to work. Then she's like, you'll notice in about 2 weeks that it's going to start to shed. Allison,
That's exciting.
I barely have any armpit hair anymore.
Wow.
One session. Now I am going to go back. You go back like once a month for a few months.
Yeah.
I am blown away by this, and it feels joyous. And for someone, I am 43. It was, I've been indoctrinated that armpit hair is yucky and leg hair is yucky, and I intend not to do that with my daughter. But, and I know it's like show by example, but I'm just like, I just feel better.
Does she know you're doing this?
No, she doesn't know this,
Okay,
but
yeah.
she knows I shave and stuff, and even that I feel weird about because it's like. But I guess the message is do whatever makes you feel good.
Right.
And mommy's been ruined, so save yourself. But I love this. So ProLays.
And you say painless. Are you doing like a numbing cream or anything first?
No.
And it's truly painless? Like no snapping rubber bands or anything?
Truly painless.
Wow. They must have come a long way because I thought it's supposed to feel like snapping rubber bands or something.
And when maybe for some people it does, because she did say it might, exactly what you're saying, you might feel like a rubber band snap.
Right.
I felt nothing, and I was convinced it wasn't working. My leg hair, like when it's 2 weeks later, so my leg hair had come in a bit. I would just like run my hand down my legs, and like all this hair would just fall out.
Like, did you ever use Nair?
Yes.
Did the young people
I can still smell it.
Me too. Or did you ever use like Joven cream bleach?
No.
Oh yeah, I bleached my arm hair.
Oh.
I felt so attractive afterwards. I was in like 6th or 7th grade. The problem is, so I had it's like I had sun in on my arm hair. Like I had, orangish but still light arm hair. But then when it grows in, it's like tiny little
frosted tips.
Yes. Yes. Totally. But anyway, that singes your nose. That is a real acrid. It's similar to Nair, but a little bit stronger. But anyway, so do the young people know what a depilatory is?
No.
Let's tell them. It's this very intense sulfuric smelling cream that you put on your hair and you let it burn your nose.
Baby, burn.
For what? 15, 20 minutes? It feels like a long time.
There's no world these chemicals aren't
no,
really bad for you, but
because it's probably like what's in Drano that breaks up a hair clog in your drain.
Oh yeah,
because what it does is it breaks the hair off. So then when you wash it off, there's all these tiny little hairs that come off. But it's like, what a pain in the butt for something that's akin to shaving.
Yeah, totally. Well, anyway, that's
so
the wisdom I have
off.
to impart, and I'm excited this summer. I will say, I felt I wanted to feel empowered, like the very cool young women on Instagram, and just be like, balls out, whatever. It's probably a bad analogy, but I just can't swing it, and it would be a bummer because it would be like, oh, come by our pool. I'm like, I can't just come by your pool. I need
because of
multiple days notice. I need to find the time to get in there and figure it out.
Are you talking about the bush area?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all of it, honestly. I don't know if the pandemic made you shaving my legs became such a fucking chore, whereas
honestly, showering has become a chore, but every time I shower, I shave my legs, and I haven't worn shorts since I was in 7th grade. I'm exaggerating, but I mean, no one sees my legs, and yet I still feel the need to shave them every time I shower because I like them to feel smooth.
Yes, me too. I do.
Yet
too.
I don't mind a shag carpet on the lady bits.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that's progress. I do. And by the way, I paid for the full laser treatment.
Yeah.
And I said, no, just clean up the perimeters, pull some weeds.
But I think I would feel more, like I got it going on. I might get my groove back. I'm just saying silly things, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I think I might feel there's more of a spring in my step if I was a little smoother.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, this might be your ticket.
I know. So have you done, if I may ask, have you ever done like Botox or any of that stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
So I did Botox for the first time. I can tell you exactly when it was because it was like 3.5 months ago because they say it lasts 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was very true. And I really didn't like it.
You didn't.
Mm-mm.
Tell me everything because, okay, so I had these, I've had sunspots on my face for a long time. And I heard about IPL laser treatment, which is just a laser where that removes them. I swear it was like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally got up the nerve to do it about a month ago. That actually, it wasn't intolerable, but you put this numbing cream on. So I thought I wasn't going to feel it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely felt it.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like little rubber bands snapping.
Oh, boy.
Which, if they had warned me that it was going to feel like it would have been fine. But
Mm-hmm.
because I was expecting nothing, I was like, this is not very comfortable. But we're going to leave the numbing cream on for longer next time. But anyway, I also was intending to get what she referred to as baby Botox,
Yes.
like just a tiny bit. However, given that my skin was not numb at all, I said, let's not do the Botox and
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll do it next time. But more and more, I keep thinking, I don't want to, there's a certain look that a lot of people have that I don't feel like, it doesn't look younger. It just looks smoother.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that. Anyway, tell me.
Yeah. I feel like similar to like the electrolysis and
Mhm.
stuff. I feel like the Botox now, there is a look that people want and they go in and they're like, give it all to me.
Yeah.
But the baby
Give
Botox,
me Lala. That's a Vanderpump reference.
Oh, is
That's
it?
the name of her book, but she is very like lip injection, Botox,
Oh,
smooth.
I don't love the lip injection
Mm-mm.
look. I will just say.
No, me neither.
Now, the Botox, the reason I opted in on it was also baby Botox. And I kind of thought, oh, maybe I'll do this as like a preventative
Mhm.
more like than smoothing everything out. And I went to like my dermatologist who's really, she's
Professional.
She's
Yeah.
a fancy doc. And, but I guess people respond differently to it. But basically, like, I got it in my forehead and my forehead lines don't really bother me at
Mhm.
all. It's more like they call them the 11s.
Yeah.
And then kind of my laugh lines, which I don't want to get rid of. I want to
Mhm.
look like I laugh and stuff. But the forehead like really took in a way that it was like pretty frozen.
Mm-hmm. Could
And-
you move your eyebrows?
I could kind of, but like I hated that feeling. I felt
So it was the feeling you didn't like
it was
more
the
than
feeling, and also Andy. I mean,
divorced you.
Andy has always been like, please don't ever do that shit. And he also, we've had extensive conversations. You can listen to Nobody's Listening Right to hear some of them where I'm like, my body, my choice.
Mm-hmm.
I am glad that he's like, please don't versus like, please God do it.
Right.
But I think similar to what you're saying, he's seen people who get it and it's just like, whoa, Nelly.
Yeah.
And it's a slippery slope. And so he noticed. He was like, I didn't tell
you
him.
didn't tell him. I see.
And he was like, what is happening? And then my daughter was like, you look different. And I was like, oh no.
Oh God.
But it wears off in 3 months and I'm back to normal.
Mhm.
And like, I won't say I would never get it again, but I don't think I would ever get it in my forehead again. And I just tiny amounts but I don't even know if I will ever get
Can
it.
I ask, and this is intense gal chat. We have a gal chat drop.
Gal chat.
Do you know how many units they gave you?
I don't.
Okay.
I think it was a very small amount,
Mm-hmm.
allegedly, but
Because I said to her, and it's my dermatologist too, I said, so if I were to do the baby Botox, where would you put it? And she was like, okay, raise your eyebrow. Like she had me move my face around. The first thing she noted was, and this is not the same at all as jiggling your thighs and saying you need to lose weight, but she's like, okay, creases at rest. Oh. I do have creases at rest though. But anyway,
do we all, because
but I think the young people don't. Their creases only show when they move, which I don't even mind though. But so anyway, my 11s don't bother me.
You don't really have them
when I scowl, but I don't make this face, you know. Yeah. YouTube.com/Allison Rosen to see me scowling. Right. So she's like, okay, so that's your glabella or something like that. And I said, I don't really mind that. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, well, I have to put it there because if I don't, then you will look different, because if I just do the forehead but I don't do that area, you'll look
like sink in or something.
I think that, what is it? Because if they paralyze certain muscles but they don't paralyze like the opposing ones, then it's going to pull down or pull up or something.
This is something interesting that I've spent some time messing around in a mirror with. But like I have seen Botox where basically everything becomes slack. Mm-hmm. That this is like down. And
it almost looks like you have like little like extra dimples right there.
Or like, but look at how now my eyebrows look like they kind of go up on the outside. And
Jack Nicholson brows is something she mentioned.
It has kind of an evil thing. Mm-hmm. Now, just for fun, I don't think that Botox does this or can do this, but look at how kind of sad I look.
Oh, you do?
My eyebrows up. Even if I'm like, there's
like your eyes. You look like you're holding a feeling in.
Yeah,
a bad one.
If you raise the inner parts of your eyebrows up, you'll just and leave the outer parts down. You have to do it with your fingers. Anyway, it's kind of fun to play around with. But I do want to caveat all of this because I have such complicated feelings around all of this shit. Where I'm like, the pink tax is a very real thing. Like oftentimes when I'm putting my makeup on in the morning, I'm not like a makeup girl. Mm-hmm. I don't love makeup. I wish I was better at it, but only because, there are these studies that like women who wear makeup well or know how to do it or wear it and have to buy it do better in their careers. Mm. And I'm like, I resent so much that this all is part of all of it, but it is our reality. Yeah. And like, we live in LA, it's all around us. And I do want to feel my best. And I think we're really similar, and like, we're both really hard workers, mm-hmm. and we want to be the best that we can be. And we want to be the best moms we can be. And we want to be that. This is, it's like, it feels like a necessary evil for me. I don't even want to say evil because everyone should do what they want to do, but I don't want to just talk about it without at least acknowledging that
you feel you're in conflict about it.
It's all, yes, exactly.
Right. So she was like, oh, I'd have to put it there. And then anyway, the sense I got was, the feeling I got was like, oh, what she's doing is not specifically tailored to my face. It's just kind of like the entry level Botox that everyone gets. And that made me a little bit nervous, even though she said like 40 units. And I mentioned that to someone else and they're like, because that to me sounded like a lot. I was like, how about like 2 or something? But I have no frame of reference. But someone's like, that actually doesn't sound like that much. Mm. So I don't know. But I don't want to walk out of there with a frozen face. Also, we were like, do I do the Botox brow lift? She's like, it's only 1 millimeter. But then I was like, I just don't want. I don't know. So I think I might not do it.
I think, don't do it. By the way, it does wear off. I mean, that was kind of the nice thing. I think it's when you're doing it over and over again and asking for more and more and more. Yeah. Like,
but I do a little bit see how that happens though, because now that I'm doing video of these shows, by the way, when I emailed you about coming on, I didn't even tell you we were videoing it, did I? Oh, but you video your show.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. I always try to warn people.
Video ready.
Okay,
No,
perfect. I have been surprised by video when I have shown up to podcasts, and it's surprised in a negative way. So I always try to warn people, and I'm realizing I didn't warn you, so I'm sorry. But anyway, now that I'm seeing myself, I'm like, yep, it is time for the nose job, and I think maybe a lip flip, and I don't know what's going on.
What the fuck is a lip flip?
Okay, I'm not actually going to do it, but a lip flip is Botox injected into your upper lip somewhere so that when you smile, your upper lip is not pulled back. And so I think this is going to be okay. I think it does that. I'm holding it down so that your upper well, your fingers wouldn't be there. It's so that your smile is less gummy, because I have quite a gummy smile that I'm not in love with, and a thin upper lip.
Gummies.
Thank you.
And your thin upper lip. I mean, I have the exact same situation.
Okay, have you considered? Yes, we do. No. We have a similar. You love it.
I actually love it.
Okay,
it's actually one part about myself I love. So maybe I'm objectively not the right audience for you to have.
No, but if you're gonna love it, then I'm gonna love it.
You have great teeth.
Thank you. Here's the thing: there's so many people out there where I see their before and after, and I'm like, oh, I liked their before with the humanness. So I just want to get there with myself. One more thing about this, and then let's move on. Unless you have more to say about it. Here's the weird mind fuck of it, though. I went and I got the laser treatment, and I was like, I feel so empowered. I feel like a new world is opening up for me. Like all these things that I thought weren't for me. Like I'm not the kind of woman who would do those things. I think maybe I am the kind of woman who could do those things. But it's weird because it's that dual-edged thing you're talking about of it's empowering to really buy into the patriarchy. Like what is it? You know what I mean? It's more complicated than that.
Something about yourself, and to conform to an ideal that's been decided without our kind of vote.
It's weird that it feels empowering to do that, though. That's what's so weird.
Well, it makes me think of I'm really trying to. This is a thing I'm also not to launch into a whole other thing, but I have always struggled with body image stuff and really have been inspired by the healthy at every size movement. But then also I'm like, but am I bad if I the diet culture is very seductive and maybe it's not a diet. It's like a lifestyle, it's all of that shit. And I'm like, yes, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm like, oh, if I lost 15 pounds, I would probably feel really good. In fact, I have before, and I did feel good. Of course, I gained it back because that's what happens. But I'm feeling good because I've made myself smaller to fit this. It's like a false sense of satisfaction, but it feels very real.
Yes. It is, though, it feels powerful to say, I'm going to make a change in my appearance, and I think that is the high that you get from losing weight. Look, weight is such a complicated issue, obviously, but it's that thing of I am controlling something that I have felt controlled me, and there is to take a value judgment away from it. Yeah.
I also just while we're on the weight topic, and then we should definitely move on, but I would love it. This was another thing that floated through my head when I was thinking about the segments. If we could collectively not talk about our weight loss and diets in front of our little kids. That keeps happening at birthday parties.
Really?
Oh no, not in front of these 8-year-old girls. What are we doing? I don't. I just judge other people for doing it. But
no,
it's upsetting.
Okay. I know we were going to get off of this, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
As someone who struggles with body image, because I also do, how do you handle the relationship between your kids and food? Because we are very laissez-faire. They pretty much, there's not forbidden foods. They can kind of have whatever they want whenever they want. And it seems to be working for us. But I think that's because they have some of my husband's genetics. He was a skinny kid growing up, whereas if it was the kind of thing where the pediatrician was like, they, they're heading towards obesity or whatever, then I would be like, oh, I guess I should be doing something. I don't know. Something else. I don't know. And I feel like even that statement is like, I would need to inspect it to figure out if I even agree with that, because I was an overweight kid and I don't think my parents, even though they tried, I don't think they handled it very well. That being said, I have often thought I don't necessarily even know the right way to handle it. It's just hard. But anyway, yeah. So how are you, like, do you try to instill good eating practices, and like, what do you do?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say there's an amazing podcast called Maintenance Phase.
Yes, I got to listen to it more.
I think the latest episode, or like 2 before this, were like the new guidelines for pediatricians and doctors for fat kids.
And it's like they're talking about giving them drugs, right? It's at a young age.
It's really eye-opening. I mean, it's really complex and stuff. And they point this out. Like, if you're a 16-year-old girl and you weigh 400 pounds and you're like, who is anyone to say that you shouldn't be able to get surgery if it's, but I think to answer your question, like, the tools that our parents' generation had were not good tools, and there aren't necessarily better tools now.
That's the thing.
I think it's not taking the whole, like, everything into consideration. It's just about this kid. We need to make this kid skinnier.
Right.
And kids are like growing and developing. And I think the thing that needs to be fixed more than the kid's weight is like society's stigma, which hurts their self-esteem.
Yes.
And like, that's what needs to be changed. So, but in terms of food in our family, I will say I'm really proud of myself, because even when there have been times where I'm like, oh, I'm falling prey to, like, I am restricting or whatever.
In yourself, you mean?
In myself. I have been really careful that my kids don't see it, and people might say they sense it. I really don't think that they do. And we sit down to dinner as a family every single night, and we have like a pretty well-balanced meal. There are no off-limit foods. I grew up in a house where my mom was always on either a diet or she was being bad. There was never anything to eat. And then it was like the low fat craze, and I would eat like 10 bagels because I was fucking starving.
Were you a margarine house? We never had butter. It was always
like
margarine.
Low fat cheese, all this crap.
Right. Snackwells.
And we have the real deal. Like, and my husband's a big snacker. So truly in our house, it's going to sound like a house of horrors. I should say we also always have like fresh fruits, vegetables, healthy snacks, but we also have like a huge candy bowl. We have ice cream at all times. We have Cheez-Its. We have Pringles. We have all of it, and they can have it. And they really, I think, because it's there. And honestly, this is true for me too. I never thought I would, because I had binge eating disorder in my 20s. I never thought I'd live in a house where there's like a whole huge fucking salad bowl filled with candy
and not
up on a shelf and not, and it just, I mean, every once in a while I'll go and get, a piece of chocolate, but I really think it instills like we really work hard on listening to your body. They don't have to eat everything in order to get dessert. We don't do that sort of thing. So I will say that's an area I feel like we have done a really good job in, given how like fucked up my past around food has been. So, and they're good eaters, and they try new things, and so I feel like so far so good.
Elliot, really, people always comment on like he'll go for vegetables, and he likes the quote unquote healthy options, things like that. I mean, he also likes sweets too, but Owen really has a taste for sweets. But I think it's just because of the accounts I follow on Instagram that just say that like pressuring them doesn't work, but I will sometimes hear other people say to him like, okay, you can have this if you take some bites of that. And then I'm like, should I be getting in there and saying like, I don't believe in that?
Right. That's interesting. I feel like, I have a funny story about this actually. What I either read the thing that resonated most for me is to offer something that you know they'll like at every meal,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's like, one of my kids loves like bread and butter. And then we also will have like broccoli or mashed potatoes or whatever it is. And then don't force them to eat anything. We do encourage them to try it and talk about like how things taste. But that's kind of the extent of it. In terms of like intervening, I think that is something you could say and just be like, hey, we're really kind of like food hippies here. Like,
yeah.
But I had a really funny thing happen where, everyone's good and fine, but we had this wonderful babysitter during the pandemic. And of course, we're all in the house together. We have a tiny house, like trying to act like I'm not hearing everything and whatever. But I overheard her. She was giving them a bath and she was talking about fasting.
What?
And she was like, some people feel like it kind of resets. Like, this is what I'm hearing. And I run in, I'll change her name. I'm like, Melissa. Like, I just freaked out. And I like was like, come here. And she was so sweet. And she kept working for us after this. It's not like I'm talking about her in the past tense.
Right.
But she came out and was like, hey, I don't want them talking about fasting or dieting or eating any of that. Like, I'm really conscientious about that. And I kind of thought like we had an understanding about that. And I had never really kind of had any conflict with her at all. And she like burst into tears. And I was like, oh God, like, it's okay. Just, please, don't bring that up. And she's like, of course. Well, she comes back later, or not comes back. She was like, finished the bath, ready to leave. And she's like, can I talk to you? And she's like, I just wanted to explain, like, I'm really sorry. I totally get where you're coming from. But I was just explaining to them about Ramadan. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my
so
God.
you're expanding my kids' cultural horizons. So sorry about that. I heard like a reset.
I was thinking like a
fasting.
detox or something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just a big misunderstanding.
Oh my God. That is amazing. So did you end up talking to your kids about it anymore, or like was that it?
No.
Oh my God. That is hilarious.
It's so funny. Yeah, big mistake by me. But, I didn't know. I didn't know. So,
yeah. Yeah. All of that it's so complicated and it is so hard. And then also like wanting to try to have consistency across sort of what our policy is, but then if like a babysitter institutes a different policy, but also not wanting to be a helicopter employer, like not wanting to micromanage. I don't know. It's tough.
Hard. It is hard not wanting to micromanage.
Yeah.
There were a few times with different sitters where I'm like, again, most of this is happening over the 3 years, and we're like, hold up.
Yeah.
Where they would start talking about something that I'm just like, no, you're not having that conversation with them. Like, that's something you should say. Like, you should ask your mom and dad
like
about that.
About death, sexuality.
Things like that. Yeah, like the big ones.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you don't take that on. And I appreciate a babysitter who feels like armed and ready to do that. And in fact, I was a nanny and I could see myself at a young age thinking like, well, I can handle this. I'll just be honest. But no, like, that's something that needs to be spoken between, just there are things that are sensitive. And anyway, so
I still remember saying to a babysitter, what does gay mean? And the babysitter saying, you should ask your mom and dad. The funny thing is I don't remember having the conversation with my parents, but I imagine I did. But
this actually, it wasn't an episode of I'm Sorry, but so we did always use the right words for, genitals, and what a horrible word, genitals. Saying it, I was like, blech. But, that's what you're supposed to do. And I think our parents didn't get that memo.
Oh my God, we did not use the real words, but with my kids we do.
Yes.
But growing up, we had so many euphemisms.
So many euphemisms.
Tiny.
And I have an awful one.
What is it?
Rosebud.
For the vagina?
Yeah.
Oh my God, okay. Mine, have I told you what mine was? Because it is up there. It might be worse.
Okay, what is it?
Makes me so uncomfortable to share this.
Please. I just told you Rosebud. Please come at me.
Oh. Magic place.
Oh, no. Oh, Allison. Oh,
Now,
no.
Our understanding was, but even this is too much for a kid. Magic
Because you make poo-poo and pee-pee?
Because it's where the baby comes from.
Oh, okay.
But I remember telling a babysitter and then her saying, oh, my friend's boyfriend calls it that. The magic spot.
Oh, God.
I was just like,
of course,
but it's
over
just
your
like,
head.
it sounds there's a real overlay of sexuality to it, even that I didn't understand.
Of course.
As a child, the words had no meaning. It was just, oh, that's your magic place.
But see, now being a parent, I can totally see like you being like, Mommy, wait, where do babies come out of? And she's like, a magic place.
Yes.
And you're like, but where is that? Well, it's here. And then it like catches on.
Yeah.
But the reason we are, as parents, supposed to use the proper terms, vulva, penis, all of that shit, is because pedophiles typically would use like, oh, come touch my magic place or whatever. I mean, that one's like ripe for the taking, I have to say. Rosebud is not far off. But a child who uses and knows the proper terms is much less likely to
be victimized.
And
they can also tell someone what happened.
Exactly. That's another thing. Like, and heaven forbid something happens and you're in court of law if, the real words are used. So there are a lot of, and also I'm just like, we should just use real words anyway.
Take the power out of it.
So my kid, as like a toddler, changing her diaper, whatever, and she's asking about her body parts, and I say all the right words. And then later we had a babysitter. Andy and I went out, we came home, and the babysitter was like, we're like, how'd it go? And she's like, great. And then she's like, so not a big deal, which you're just like, yeah,
here it comes.
But Teddy did ask if she could see my clitoris. She's like 2.5.
That is amazing.
We were like, and? She's like, I told her no, but we were dying. We thought that was so funny. A little 2-year-old.
That is amazing. So Rosebud. Is that a Southern thing?
Maybe.
Big Citizen Kane fans?
Oh, yeah. Rosebud.
Is that I'm not familiar with that being a euphemism except in discussions of Citizen Kane. But is it like was it just your family? Do you know? I can't even get the words out.
Oh my God.
Or is this like a trend?
So sincerely too. Okay, I'm going to tell you where I think the real thing came from, and it's so upsetting. Now I'm feeling like you saying magic place.
Okay.
So I think it's because of like a dog's looks like a little rosebud, a dog's vulva.
Oh.
Picture it with me. Go deep into your...
I'm thinking about Wendy.
Like a little puppy.
Sure. I'm with you.
What is happening? I'm on this podcasting. Imagine, if you will, with me.
Dog's vagina.
Puppy's little vulva.
It's funny. I'm like...
It looks like a little rosebud.
When you were younger, did you experience like when you have a crush on someone and then you try to like conjure them in your mind and you can't? It's like that Doors song, I can't see your... I'm having trouble picturing a dog's vulva, and Wendy has one.
Yeah.
But for some reason, just dog penis is coming to mind.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I know it's like further down there by the butt than you expect.
It's very
tucked in. Know what?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. Okay. And you think it comes from dogs?
Yeah. Oh my God, this has been like just a humiliation upon humiliation. Just when I thought I was out of the woods. Yes. So I do think that we always had dogs.
Okay.
And, I don't know why we were referencing her Rosebud, but that's
maybe
what
you needed to.
We did have a dog that like adopted us, and her owners sadly were like older and kind of what's that called when they're hoarders?
Oh.
And it wasn't like a safe, clean environment, and this dog would run away and run like a mile and a half and came to our house, and like they would come get her a week later, and then she'd do it again. So she kind of became our dog, but they wouldn't let us fix her. And
why? They were hoarding her uterus.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It was very weird, but she had a menstrual cycle.
I think they call it going into heat. Okay. So she had a menstrual cycle. She got her period.
Oh my God. Okay. So, yes. So we'd put these like little underwear things that had a pad on them. They're called bitches britches.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so maybe that came up because that was like a thing in our house.
Yeah, like it's coming out of her Rosebud. This is amazing. Okay. Did Andy grow up calling things by their real name?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I need to ask him that.
Yeah. So let's see. Checking the time because I know you have a hard out, but we have a lot of time. So what made you decide to come back with nobody's listening, right?
Okay.
And how many years in between?
Okay. Yes. So what I will say is we stopped podcasting for a reason that we are actually going to make like another podcast about to explain. But then we didn't podcast for like 4 or 5 years. And
is this a secret reason?
Yeah.
Okay. Will you tell me off air?
Yes.
Okay.
So, basically, and everyone will find out the reason eventually if you follow us or like stick with us, and we'll, whatever. So we honestly just missed it. And the show we started, we're at like different places in our career now. We used to do podcasting like, I mean, don't get me wrong, we would love to make a few bucks off of it, but now it was like, oh, I miss this hour a week where it was just him and me talking. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about our kids typically. Like, I try to make it a rule that we're not like talking about, we're not on our phones. We're like face to face. And I love like going through the week and being like, oh yeah, I want to bring that up with him. I want to bring that up. And honestly, it's like really good for our relationship. So kind of the premise is like, we're assuming no one's listening. We're just talking about what we talk about. But it's been really fun. And it's like Andy has a studio and we just do it. Mm-hmm. And so it's pretty, pretty low maintenance. However, he's gotten into the video stuff we have like on our Instagram. He edits these videos and makes them really fun.
They're so fun.
You're so
great.
Sweet. Every time I see that you like one, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I love them. Yeah. They're really fun and creative.
So he's having a lot of fun doing that. So that takes up time, but it's like a fun, thing for him. So.
Yeah. Yes. I also have started doing Monday shows sometimes with my husband.
Yeah.
And it is so much fun. Like it really, I was sort of like, I don't know what to make of this when it started because I really was feeling like compelled to continue doing them with him, but it's like so easy and low maintenance because I don't, it's him. He's right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt so easy that I was like, but am I shirking some kind of like responsibility I have by just taking the easy way out with my husband versus like booking a guest that makes me nervous or something like that, So now I realized like, no, I can do both. And I'll always just do both. But there is something really fun about for me as well.
Yeah, it's the best of both worlds. I mean, I do think it's really fun, and I think it's nice to kind of take the the pressure off every once in a while.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So tell me about The One Sure Thing.
Okay. So The One Sure Thing is a podcast all about death and dying. And this is something I've been thinking about truly for like 5 years. I mean, honestly, around the time we stopped podcasting, I was like, oh, maybe I would start a podcast, but never really knew what it was going to be like. And honestly, when I started it, I was kind of setting out to make it like one of these sleek, like produced. And that's just, it turns out, not how I do things. And so it's still pretty kind of raw and mostly unedited. And the first 2 episodes are my sister and me. And we are talking about losing my mom when I was 19 and she was 22 to pancreatic cancer. And then my dad died 10 months later, and they were both 53. And
was it on their anniversary that he died?
it was, yes. It was on their 27th anniversary. So the first anniversary without her. He had a heart attack. And Anna Marie, my sister, who I love so much, and I had never talked about it, like the whole thing. And honestly, really kind of avoided talking about it. Like, we would talk about my parents and stuff, but we didn't really talk about losing them in that time, because there was one time that I did bring up something and like she didn't remember it happening. You know, we have different memories and it kind of became tense. And I think we both were like, this is not worth, you know, like we have no one to say who's right or wrong or, you know, and so we left it at that, but that was a long time ago. And so this was really illuminating and I think healing for both of us. And we talked, the first 2 episodes are that. And then I spoke with a hospice nurse and this like neurosurgeon who is a fascinating guy who captured the brainwaves of the first dying brain.
Oh.
And found some interesting stuff. That's an episode. And
what did he find?
Well, mostly that the parts of our brain that include memory kind of went crazy, like fired off. So it was like, does that give validity to the life flashing before your eyes in a neurological sense?
Right.
Or is, you know, and also that the brain lives, you know, we think the time of death is the heart stopping, but the brain continues on for a little bit.
How long?
I forget what he said. I think it's seconds. Okay. But anyway, so very interesting. I had a reading with a medium, which was very interesting. And then I interviewed her. So our first season just wrapped up. Oh, and I interviewed a mom who her son has a terminal illness.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But she's incredible and was so open. And so, you know, there's something for everything.
It is a really, it's not like I teared up a little bit, but I wasn't sobbing. You know, I think you do a good job of making it not, it's not if someone's thinking like, I don't think I can handle that, handle that, you can handle it is what I would say.
I especially think, yes, I kind of like did the episodes in an order. And obviously if someone's like, I just can't handle listening to the mom, for example, although like her episode, you would think from start to finish, you'd be sobbing, but then you kind of get into the life and reality and the story. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like I definitely cried throughout that, but my whole thing about this is, well, it's kind of twofold. You know, we all have a fear of death, most of us on some level. And I kind of feel like the more I look at it head on, the less that fear takes hold. And I've thought, obviously, having lost my parents so young, I think so much about like, what is the meaning of all this? Is there something beyond this? You know, and in talking to different people, and also so many people have written to me with their like, little coincidences that happen that make them feel like they're getting a little, hi, hello from their loved ones who have passed. And I've had a bunch of those happen that I really feel at peace now that and comforted that we don't know for sure. No one does, but I think it's highly likely that there is something beyond this. And so that's been really comforting. So I kind of have found what I've been seeking through it. And then I was just going to do a podcast like we do, like a weekly. And I realized I was like, okay, I do need to take kind of breaks from this. And also I want to our other podcast, we don't edit, but I do want to give it a listen because it's such sensitive information. And so I'm going to do season 2. I'm already recording. I'm talking to this amazing oncologist, and I'm going to do an episode on pet death. If you would,
sure. I have experienced that. And how?
Yes. So anyway, yeah.
Have you heard of Cole Imperi?
Yes.
She's a thanatologist. Okay. Have people mentioned her to you?
No, actually, but I know I listened to her with Allie
on Ologies.
And then I saw that she was a guest with you.
She's great. I had her on, and the response to that episode has been so strong. People just being like, this is the best episode this is one of the best episodes you've ever done. This is I think that there is just
Did she not talk about rosebuds and stuff, or
they haven't heard that. So when they hear that, this is going to replace that one. But I just think there's a real appetite for discussions of mortality and of grief and all that stuff. So
yeah, there really is. And also the other thing, I spoke with this doctor, Shoshana Ungerleider, who is my final episode of season 1. And she created an organization called the Endwell Project. And the other part of this that I'm looking at is, different ways of disposing our bodies and how badly we do death in this country.
Yeah.
And so that's been very eye-opening. So it's kind of from every direction, but also it's made me think about how will I want my time to be? And, now there's medical aid in dying, and there are just different options. And sorry, I keep coughing.
That's okay.
There are different options, and similar to birth, I feel like women giving birth suddenly have a few more options open to them and are exploring different ways of doing that. And I think I'm excited that kind of the conversation is happening around dying also.
Do you have ideas for how you want to go? Or rather, what you want to be done with your body is more what I mean to say.
Yeah. Well, there's water cremation now, which is really cool. And basically you end up with cremated remains, but there's no
burning,
carbon dioxide being released into the air. There's composting, there's human composting.
Does that involve worms?
Well, it more just involves, I think, a body being put in a compostable shroud and just put into the earth, not as deep.
Right.
Because the coffins that we're in, they're plastic cases. It's just, so this is kind of yes, I think there probably are, it's just gonna, but you're not getting churned with worms.
Right.
Or anything. It's just
eggshells.
Yeah.
This is a question that I should have asked Cole, but a body in an embalmed body in a coffin, does it decompose?
It does.
Okay.
But much more slowly, I think, because the air, there's not oxygen.
Right.
Yeah.
So coffins are airtight.
Yeah.
Tupperware situation. I had always said the idea of being, and by the way, I recognize that I'm not going to be aware of what's happening to my body at that point. But still, the idea of cremation is sort of scary to me because it's you're being burned. And Daniel's you'd prefer to be trapped in a box underground, not like embalmed and just like that forever? Because in my mind, it's like you get buried and then you just kind of become part of the earth. And he's like, not if you're in a coffin.
Yeah.
He's like, I never thought of that before.
It's really interesting. And with cremated remains now, they can do cool things. Like they can turn you into a coral reef that grows, you know, contributes to the ocean ecosystem. You can be turned into like, be part of a tattoo for someone if they want to like carry you with them forever, or like a diamond, or all this stuff. But I hear you on the cremation thing. Like my dad was cremated and my mom was buried. Something about the water cremation. I'm like, that sounds a little better.
Soothing. Yeah. Wait, how was that determined that she would be buried and he would be cremated?
I don't know. Like there were so many decisions. Maybe he had at some point said that he wanted to, but we have a plot in the cemetery in St. Louis, and
he didn't want any part of it.
Yeah. No, he is buried there with my mom, but his cremated remains, but she's like in a full coffin. So I'm like, it's interesting. He must have decided that at some point. I was like, in a fugue state. I don't remember very much. That is something like going over it with my sister. I'm just like, that was so crazy that my mom died when my sister and I were in St. Louis. I won't get into all the details of that. You can listen to the podcast if you want them.
I appreciated that because my mom was a debutante and wanted me. She claimed she didn't want me to be a debutante. She just wanted me to have the option. But I remember like going to this meeting and being like, I do not want to be part of this.
Yeah.
It was so not who I was.
Yes.
But
wise, I think. It's just a weird thing. And in St. Louis, they still do it. It's very archaic to me. I mean, it's so archaic, but also it's like a really fun party where like parents don't really care if you're drinking, and it's all at this one hotel and like all of your friends are there.
Right.
And so
I can see where socially it is fun.
Socially it was fun, but like the actual debutante part of it is like pretty upsetting if you really start to look at it. And it's very problematic. Like the history of it is not good. So don't.
So you were in St. Louis, and was she in Pasadena?
Yes, she was in Pasadena. She had sent my sister and I to St. Louis for my debutante ball. We found out she died. So we flew back to Pasadena. We had this service for her here. Then we flew to St. Louis. We had a service for her there. We buried her there. Then we come home. And then 10 months later, like rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Which that's why even as like, I think about this, even as kind of, if my friend were going through that, I'd be like, this is a lot of funerals to have to go to in one. Like to be doing that for your parents so close together. So my memory, and it was interesting talking to my sister because we both feel like a little memory insecure, but we both remember different things. And so yeah.
The thing that struck me was, I mean, a lot struck me, but a detail that my brain was fixated on was that after your dad had died, you were headed to the house. It was your sister's birthday was a few days, 3 days later.
Yeah.
And you guys were meeting at the house, and you got to the house and took a nap, not knowing. And the phone kept ringing. Were you nervous about taking naps after that at all?
Yeah. I mean, I think about that a lot, actually, where I'm like, something could have happened to someone and I wouldn't know about it yet. Like, it's not necessarily nap specific, but it's like
hypervigilant specific.
Yeah, there are those times in your life. But that is something this podcast has helped me with. And I've struggled a lot with becoming a mom and, kind of the story my brain has told me is when you love someone so much, they die. And so, I had to kind of deal with that with my husband. But then when you are in charge of protecting someone, that pressure, like it's just became a powder keg for me to basically have like really bad intrusive thoughts all the time. I still deal with it, but I'm kind of I'm working on rewiring my like neural pathways. And
are you doing EMDR?
No, when I say that, I'm like, I try to think about something else. That sounded very scientific and like, no, I'm just self-doing this.
No, it makes sense though. I understand.
I have a PhD and nothing. So
I'm doing some light biohacking.
But doing this podcast, I think, has definitely helped me, like, feeling less afraid of death has kind of helped alleviate all of this stuff. Like, I obviously don't want to die. I don't want to leave my kids motherless. But it was so bad at one point. I mean, if Andy took the kids somewhere, I would literally just wait and listen for ambulances. You know, it's so that's been really great too. It's been a nice side effect.
Yeah, good. Let's do Just Me or Everyone.
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
Okay, do you have a Just Me or Everyone?
Yes.
Let's hear
So
it.
just me, or does everyone know that there is a maximizing your pleasure way of eating a Kit Kat and a Twix bar that involves eating the chocolate around all the sides?
Okay, I'm with you. I'm picturing it like I was a dog's vulva.
Okay. Right next to one another.
Yeah.
So on a Kit Kat, you're going to want to, break the thing off, then eat around the full perimeter.
Okay.
And that chocolate will kind of snap off pretty easily with your teeth. On a Twix, the ridges aren't as sturdy, but you're still going to want to get around the whole Twix.
Okay.
On a Twix, you're going to then want to eat the top caramel/chocolate layer.
Just pry it off. Cookie.
Peel it off.
Okay.
And then lastly, you'll go through the shortbread cookie. On a Kit Kat, once you're around the perimeter, it's kind of like you're just going to want to pop off each layer of the wafer.
Yeah.
But if you don't eat your Twixes and Kit Kats this way, you're
squandering
wasting
joy.
Opportunity. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, I've never done this.
Never.
I must have, right? This is what I feel like I've done. And I don't even know the last time I had a full-size Twix. It's all Halloween-size candy that I encounter.
It's still the same thing.
But I think I've taken a Twix and bitten half of it just in a squandering joy way, and then maybe pried it apart. But I've never done I don't think I've done the perimeter. I would like to do that.
You might get weird looks from people, like when you're at the airport waiting and you're sitting there mousing your way around this whole fucking thing. Truly, I want to report back from you. Okay. I want you to try it.
We have some Kit Kat right now. I will.
And then let me know.
You know what I've done sometimes? And you don't just get weird looks, but you get judgment and possibly ostracized, social opprobrium, and excommunicated.
Whoa.
And I'm not proud of this. And I know that you're not supposed to do it. And I know that it's actually very much insulting to a sushi chef. But if I've taken a roll and then I've kind of picked some things out of it and just eaten them by themselves and then eaten a deconstructed roll. Oh. You're not supposed to, though.
No.
Because it's that's their art. They've served you a plate of art.
Yes.
And you're supposed to consume it as the artist intended.
I guess. But sometimes those rolls are deconstructed all by themselves.
Yeah.
They're falling apart.
That's right.
And it's not my fault
then
if you're a sloppy artist.
That's right.
So,
and also, sometimes you are getting, a Picasso, but sometimes you're getting a Kincaid.
Yes.
And I actually
Nothing against it.
No, I was a fan of. Look, I think the writing piece that I'm most known for was written in 2000. It's so long ago, but it was about how much I like Kincaid and trying to grapple with that because it's very much not who I'm supposed to be. Except I do cheesy sentimental shit.
You were supposed to be a debutante.
That's right. But I just mean it's Kincaid died, but he was like very right wing and Christian. He tucks a Christian fish into everything.
I didn't know that. Now I'll have to look in all of my framed Kincaid prints. I'll have to look for the fish.
Anyway, I don't mean to besmirch anyone or anything. But anyway, so, sometimes it's grocery store sushi.
What else do we like to deconstruct? And I just want to say this about
I do weird shit with all food, so everything.
Okay. Just regarding a Kit Kat, just so you know, I feel like if you haven't eaten a Kit Kat this way, first of all, there's a very satisfying thing that you don't get from the Twix, which is when you snap the edges off, they come off clean.
I like that.
And then
even like the long edge?
Yes.
Wow.
Now,
it's like it was meant to do this.
It's like it was meant to do. Now, it might take you a few tries to get the whole thing.
It's a learning curve.
But then the thing that you don't realize is, speaking of art, like the layers in a Kit Kat of the wafer, and then there's this like weird, not quite chocolate, like filling.
Okay.
That you've never even really met before if you haven't eaten a Kit Kat.
Oh my God, it's like finding a whole new room in your house.
Yes,
that dream.
You're about to find a whole new room. So that's exciting. Okay, other food that we deconstruct.
This is not the same, but any sort of sauce or dressing I'm going to want on the side.
Oh, interesting. Because you like to know. I like
to
the
control.
ratio.
Yes, exactly. I'm trying to think of other things that I will.
I was going to do a whole other.
I'll pick a pimento out of a green olive. Anything in an olive, it's coming out in my hand first.
Oh, I love olives. Yeah. I might be amending my hey, go fuck or something.
Oh, okay.
I think I am based on this conversation.
All right. I want to get to that in a sec, but I'm just trying to think of what are other foods that we deconstruct. I mean, this is not deconstructing. This is gilding the lily. But I like a spritz if I can't believe it's not butter spray on pretty much anything. It's like, yeah, it just makes it creamier and saltier.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
I haven't had, and I can't believe it's not butter spritz in 27 years.
No, because you pride yourself on having real items in your house. But it is. Look, it's not. I can believe it's not butter. It's its own separate category.
Yeah. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
It's its own thing.
Oh, here's something that I deconstruct, and it's gross. To some people, I think it's fine. So there are there's jars. I haven't seen them in a long time. I imagine I haven't eaten them in a long time. But there are jars of Gerber, like, turkey sticks. They look like, do you remember Vienna sausages?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I went through a phase before I had children where I enjoyed eating those because to get back to the eating stuff, it's like the whole can is like 70 calories or something. Check your math. Your mileage may vary, but it's something like that. Because I went through like a baby food phase because I'm like, it's tiny little portions, but it actually tastes like food-ish. Anyway, so I take out one of these little turkey stick things, and it's got like a little bit of a rind on it.
Oh boy!
So I'd like peel it off, and then I just have the mushy meat tube, and then like a square of
that's what my parents called a penis. It's so weird.
Mushy meat tube.
Rosebud and mushy meat tube. That's foul, but
yeah, I know.
We're in a judgment-free zone. Who am I to say anything?
I'm trying to think of anything else. Yeah, what else do you deconstruct?
Gosh.
Oh, I mean, like an onion ring. Sometimes you got to suck the onion out, and then you're just left with ring.
God, now I want sushi. I want onion rings.
Yeah.
Dinner is going to be very interesting tonight. What else? I mean, this is not really exciting. I think everyone does this, but like a trail mix.
Yeah.
I'll get in there and find the things I want, leave the things I don't. Not publicly, like in my own home. I'm not a monster.
Peanuts are not the item that I'm going to want in a trail mix.
Correct. Don't give me this filler like the melon bullshit in a fruit tray.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of do the same thing I do to a Kit Kat with like a tiramisu. Instead of going down, I go layer by layer.
Yeah. I think I do a little bit of both. Same with like a cake that has layers or something.
Yes.
A couple bites, to see it, as the chef intended.
Yes.
And then it's game on.
Yes.
Then I'm separating everything and
going rogue.
Right. Exactly. Oh, what about a black and white cookie?
Oh, so a black and white cookie. I like the black and Andy likes the white.
Oh, yeah, it's so perfect.
So we just split her.
Okay. I like the white a lot better than I'm the Andy. Because we're both Rosens.
You are.
But,
Are you Jewish?
So, yeah, like culturally or ethnically, yes. Like I am of Jews.
Yes.
I was raised with no religion.
Okay.
So I don't celebrate any of the Jewish things. But yes, I am.
Got it. Okay.
What about you guys?
Yes. So he is culturally Jewish. Actually, his dad did like 23andMe and it came back like the high, like 99.79% Ashkenazi Jew. They did celebrate it. Andy he went to Hebrew school for a while and then said, I don't want to do it anymore. So we're not religious, but we do celebrate Christmas and we celebrate Hanukkah and we, on Passover, we read books about it. So we're kind of teaching our kids more culturally about it than actually practicing the religion.
Like if someone said to your kids, are you Jewish? What would they say?
They would say yes, I think. They would say I don't even think they'd say half Jewish because they don't even
think in that way. Yeah.
But it's interesting because in their school, they're some of the only kids who celebrate Hanukkah or anything. So, or know anything about Passover or anything. So, everyone at school definitely thinks they're Jewish.
Right.
And, which I'm like, great. Until all the anti-Semitic people come out of the woodwork and
which seems like a not great time. I mean, actually, like this week I haven't heard of anything, but like lately it has not seemed very great.
No, it's really scary. It's really fucked up, I think.
Yeah.
So
this is actually a fucked up thing to say, and I'm going to say it because I've talked with my husband about it, and he's been like, you should talk about that on the show sometime. So because I never celebrated any of the Jewish holidays, and I love Christmas, we have only done Christmas, even though I'm always like, someday maybe we should do Hanukkah too. I feel like all this stuff is like a book I'm going to read someday. Like I want to know about it, and it feels weird. It's a much longer story of like my whatever. It's a much longer story of like why I was raised with nothing. But my kid's last name is Quantz, which is Daniel's not Jewish. Quantz is like no one really knows what that is, and my kids don't know that they're Jewish because it has not really come up.
Yeah.
And when all the Kanye stuff was happening and like everything that's happening lately, I've just been like, I feel like it's better that they don't know. Like because then I guess in my mind I'm imagining some scenario where like, I don't know, some bad person comes in and is like, are you Jewish? And then like harms the Jewish people, which it doesn't
like Holocaust. I mean,
which is, by the way, that's my intrusive thought always. Like that's exactly where my brain goes all the time. So yeah, like, I don't know. I
hear what you're saying. Totally. It's interesting because so we have a cabin and it's in.
Oh yeah.
area.
I meant to, oh my God, I meant to ask about that.
It's fine. We have a cabin in an area that is like really a mixed bag politically, but also like there are definitely some
Nazis
up there. Like, yes, unfortunately, yes.
They like mountains.
And it is kind of like, how much do you advertise? Like, but I also, and it feels like a little shitty saying this because we're not practicing Jews. And so that's like, I wasn't raised Jewish, so I don't really have a claim to this, but also I'm like, no, you know what? They should be whoever they are and their heritage. And like, of course, I don't want to like hide that part of them, but you want to protect your kids and you're like, but I also think about, like if your kid is gay and if there's this huge anti-LGBTQ thing? Are you hiding that? Are you wanting them to keep that on the down low? You know?
Right. I know it feels like so problematic to go to. Well, so the thing that I wasn't saying before, but I will say, but I've gone into it on the podcast before, but this, I know it sounds insane. My last name's Rosen. I look Jewish. I did not know I was Jewish until I graduated college because my dad and my mom went along with it, but my dad is the one who kept the story going, said we weren't Jewish.
Oh, wow.
That's how much they didn't want to be Jewish. And it came from fear. From, you know, he was born in 1933, and there's all these reasons I could go into, but it's like, it just came from this idea of like, if they don't, you know, the religion doesn't mean anything to us. That's how my dad felt. And if they don't think they're Jewish, then that's safer in some way. And I always, it's been something that I'm like, that was fucked up. And like, you lied to us. And I mean, it's just it's weird. And my whole life, people have said, are you Jewish? And I would say no. And they're like, yes, you are. And I was like, why does everyone think they know what I am? I'm not. And then it turned out they were all right. You know, like I have all these issues with the way my dad handled it. But all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I'm not saying it's right, but I get it. I actually understand. But when I had those thoughts of like, I'm glad my kid's last name is Quantz. I'm glad they don't, you know, I feel like maybe we're dodging a bullet because they don't know yet. I'm so, you know, just all this anxiety about it. I was like, for the first time, I actually had like much more compassion for the way my dad handled it because it was born of anxiety and this, you know,
protection.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
The nice way of looking at it is
he was trying to protect us, even though I don't like that he lied to us.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think it's kind of cool, and especially like my kids going to school and they're the only ones who understand these traditions and can teach other kids about it. I guess, and my kid's last name is Rosen.
Right.
So I want them to, it's kind of like, there's so many things right now like this where it's like, unfortunately, we have to have conversations with our kids at young ages about how other people treat people poorly or unfairly or, you know, horribly.
Yeah.
Due to the color of their skin and where they came from. And I guess this just falls under the same umbrella. But what I will say, I don't know, your kids are much younger, but my kids have honestly kind of impressed me with how, I guess, open they are to those conversations. And when it's told in the framework of like, but we're doing the right thing. Like we're on the right side. We went to the BLM protests and that's what we were fighting for. And, you know, I haven't had the conversation with him about anti-Semitism, but we will at some point. And, you know, they give me hope. The only conversation I've had to have with them that has just been truly heartbreaking and senseless is, gun violence, because they heard about Uvalde before I had a chance to talk to them. And so in that situation, I didn't have the opportunity to frame it in a way that was kind of age appropriate. I mean, I don't even know how you frame that in a way that, but anyway, long story short is they have surprised me with like how open-hearted they are and how much they seem to understand it and immediately are like, well, we're on the right side of things and we want to do good.
Right.
So
Good.
that's nice. Yeah.
Good. I'm realizing the time and I know that you need to go. So let's just quickly do, hey, go fuck yourself.
Okay. Here's my amended one.
Okay.
Lately, anytime I order a salad, mostly it's salads, the dressing, they fill up the dressing container like a third. It's not enough dressing. And I know it's just someone who doesn't give it a second thought, whose job it is to fill up the containers, and they're just slopping some in there. But when you give me no dressing on this $22 salad, it really gets my goat. Like, that is such a bummer. And things like that in the food realm can really throw me off. Like when I'm
Oh,
so excited and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then there's no dressing or there's no like sauce for my noodles because someone just wasn't thinking. It's very upsetting.
Yeah. They need to think about the way their actions are affecting you. No, I get it.
Hey, go fuck yourself.
Yes, I'm with you on that. Because sometimes it's the like accoutrement that you're looking forward to the most.
So I thought you might relate to this because you said you always get it on the side. Do you find yourself like lately? I've been finding myself or like getting two dressings.
Yeah, sometimes you have to cover your assets. What?
Your rosebud.
Yeah.
And your mushy meat stick.
Yeah. Cover your. Did I use that phrase correctly?
Asses?
No, I said assets. Cover your assets. That doesn't make sense. You got to I don't know what I'm saying. You got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Cover your ass? No, that doesn't make sense either. I don't even know. I've lost the ability to speak suddenly, which is terrible if you're a podcast host.
That's not great.
Elizabeth, could I have had any more fun with you? No, I said like Chandler. I don't know why. This has been so nice catching up with you.
So great.
Obviously, you're going to have to come back. And also, you'll have to come on a Patreon episode because I did not manage my time well and we didn't get to the questions that people had for you. They had specific questions for you. And I feel like a real asshole because I didn't get to them in time. So please promise.
I promise.
Okay, good.
Scout's honor.
Okay, good. So you'll come back for a Patreon episode and I'll ask you those questions and it'll be great.
Awesome.
Okay, wonderful. Tell everyone where they can find you, etc.
Okay, so I am on Instagram at Elizabeth Laime, Laime. Also, our podcast, Nobody's Listening Right, has an Instagram page that's very fun where Andy does his videos. And if you're watching A Million Little Things, we air Wednesday nights on ABC and then Thursday and beyond on Hulu. And it's an amazing final season. I hope people are enjoying it.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I mentioned Patreon, patreon.com/Allison Rosen.
Patreon.
Go there. There's outtakes. There's behind the scenes content. There's my feelings about various episodes, things like that. And then also episodes of The Friend Zone, which is my Patreon podcast where I get very candid and you can ask me nosy questions. And Elizabeth is going to come on. And there's a level where you can text me. I'll text you back. Check it out. Patreon.com/Allison Rosen. Subscribe for a year, get 2 months free. And then also new Patreon alert. Todd Perry, who I did Upworthy Weekly with, he and I are starting a Patreon only podcast. It's sort of the continuation of what we were doing before, but just for Patreon. And there's just one level, $2 a month. So if you want to support that, patreon.com/Allison and Todd. Follow me on social media at Allison Rosen on Twitter and Instagram, the Allison Rosen on TikTok. I'm just starting out over there. Please make sure you're subscribed to this podcast. Also check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/Allison Rosen. Subscribe there. This is too many. I've told you too many things to do, which is really confusing everything, but I trust that you can handle it. Leave us a nice review, please, everywhere. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. This is so much fun. Listeners, thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen Show? We had a good time, but now we gotta go. Yeah, Allison Rosen.